and welcome to the program. This is Vivica Williams, and this is Head to Head. This is the second program in a series aimed at addressing questions commonly asked by expats living here in Ukraine. We'll talk about living in Ukraine, navigating the complex legal environment here, and hopes for the future. Last episode, we talked about how to stay legally in Ukraine. Today, we're discussing the registration process. It's the next step that comes after you've received a residency permit. Joining us in the studio to answer the most common questions is Volodymyr Kravchenko. He's an attorney at the Law and Justice law firm. I thank you so much for being with me today, Volodymyr.
Hello, it's my pleasure.
So we started talking about after someone has a residency permit in their hand, the next step is registration. So what does this mean? What is registration?
Yes, it's the next step and it's a very important one. And basically in two words, we can explain this by putting the special stamp into the residency card, like it's temporary or permanently, the stamp with your address where you live officially. It's your official address.
So that seems simple enough, but as we know and why this is such a common question, it's not. So what are some of the major issues people have?
Very often people face the problems. First of all, it's with landlord not willing to give permit to register there, and as usual to Ukrainian, unfortunately, it's a bureaucracy.
Right. And so what are some of the most common myths or issues that make landlords hesitant to register?
Very often landlords are afraid to give the permit to register because they're afraid to lose the ownership for the apartment or the house. They think, as the Soviet style, that they will lose the apartment by giving this permit or give the share in the ownership.
So is that what registering does? I remember this myth as well, or it is a myth as far as I know.
Currently it's a myth because it does not give any rights for the ownership. It gives only the right to use that apartment and to use it as the official legal address of the foreigner here in Ukraine.
Okay, and so I remember a question with the landlord common thing. What happens if the person who's registered, the foreigner registered, leaves the country without deregistering?
In this case, that can be a problem for the landlord to unregister such a person, but there are a lot of legal means to do that. For example, it's the end of the rent agreement or through the court hearing, through the court decision.
So in this case, it would be in a landlord's best interest to have a rental lease agreement.
Yes, it's for both parties. It's good to have the rental agreement.
And so then, if a foreigner left at the end of the lease agreement without deregistering, then the landlord could take this paper and have an automatic, easy process of deregistering?
Yes, exactly. He go to the office with this land agreement and just register him by his application without presence of the foreigner and the presence of the document with the stamp.
Wow, this is great, and I think then what we could say, so what our expats could help to make the landlord feel more comfortable is they could explain these things. So being that registering someone in your apartment does not give you a piece of their land, of the apartment or the house,
yes.
And it's easy to deregister if you have a lease.
Yes, exactly. It don't give any ownership rights, and it's easy to unregister when the rent agreement is over.
Oh, that is definitely so much clearer than it was a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And now the other issue you talked about was bureaucracy. And I know there's been some good changes in this system in the last couple of years.
Last few years it was changed significantly, and we have very easy process of registration. Now we have, I'm talking about Kyiv, for example, we have nice administrative center with new remodeling, with lines, with the tickets, and you have very flexible working hours. You can come any day during the week, working from 9 till 8, and it's very nice and easy, and the procedure became much faster than it was 3 years ago.
Absolutely. I remember this is great. I've been to the office since they made these changes. There's great ticket lines. There's actually even someone who helps you, which is somewhat hard to believe here in Ukraine, someone who smiles and helps you fill out the computer program. So this is a major change.
Yes, but sometimes happen some delays because it's also the human working there, and we have problem. But in generally, it's the system, the regulation in law much better, and the organizing of the offices is much better level now, and I hope it will go to our other cities in Ukraine as well.
So here we go to what does an expat need to do, or a foreigner need to do, to tell their landlord what needs to happen? What do they need to take with them when they go to this office?
First of all, my suggestion will be to talk about registration before renting the apartment.
Absolutely.
To tell everything in front, to put this in your rent agreement, and after you get the temporary residency permit or permanent residency, you ask your landlord to come with you to the administrative center office, and the landlord should bring the documents for the apartment and give his written consent to register the person. It takes half an hour or an hour at least.
And I can tell you that is definitely for certain. It does not take that long of time. So the landlord would need to bring the deed to the apartment or house, a copy of their passport or documents?
From landlords, it's original documents for the house or apartment, and the documents, ID documents. And very important thing that if there's a couple of owners, everybody should be present, or the power of attorney from them should be. Because sometimes people own 3 or 4 owners. It can be an issue when somebody is abroad, and you need to do that very fast.
You have a copy of the power of attorney.
Yes.
And you go to the office, you get a ticket, and it takes you about 30 minutes.
Yes.
So this could help bring some comfort or ease to people, landlords who are hesitant to register.
Yes, it's helped a lot, and of course there are some people who may be afraid, you need to explain them, but in general the situation is changing, and a lot of people have no problem with registering foreigners in their apartments now.
And the last question is, I know that a lot of people in the system was, and it still is, a lot of people are registered in apartments in which they don't live. Is this legal, or what are some of the issues going to be with this?
Yes, it is a practice of that nowadays, and it's not a strict violation of the law, but the foreigner generally should live in that place where he registered, because first of all it's official address, and if somebody will look for you, he will need to find you there. And if something happens and you don't there can be like fine, administrative fine of you not living in your place. So my suggestion to always live where you register.
Whenever possible.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Volodymyr.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today in the program, we talked to Volodymyr Kravchenko, an attorney at the Law and Justice law firm, about the registration process here in Ukraine. Join us next time when we talk about the changes in laws regarding hiring foreigners. Thank you for watching.